Hi, I am Michael Santos with Prison Professors, and today I'm pretty excited to be introducing you to my new friend Timothy, who I think we connected through a different website, but he reached out to me, and he asked me some questions. I said, hey, if you're going to ask questions, why don't we just record a video and we can teach and inspire guys in jail and prison. So Timothy, thanks so much for taking the time to meet with me on a Sunday afternoon. I imagine you've got quite a few things competing for your time. Tell me what's going on in your life.
Well, right now, unfortunately, recently got laid off August 13th. I work with probationary youth at Optimist Charter School, so trying to look for employment and potentially a career transition as well, and just building from there, basically.
And how did you get involved in working with at-risk youth?
Well, I was initially a substitute teacher from the agency, and I was referred there. And I had previous experience from the school SOLDAD, which was SOLDAD Enrichment Action Program. And they directed me to go over there and went from substitute to permanent teacher and just built from there, basically.
And so how long have you been working with them?
I was there for approximately 5 years. I worked as a econ, PE, English assistant, and history and government teacher's assistant as well.
And you found our work at Prison Professors through Big Herc, right?
Yeah, that was the platform. I initially saw you with the interview, and I was like, wow, this is such an amazing story he had. I'd like to reach out and network with him and potentially get mentorship from you, because it's like if you being around successful people, it's like iron and sharpen iron, where it elevates you as a person and individual, though. But most people just want to struggle paycheck to paycheck and live the same status quo, basically.
Yeah, so I'm very happy to be open and honest with you and share with you the strategies that I started using when I was still locked in prison. And I'm very happy to share with you how those strategies have helped me build a career since I have come home, because my goal is not only to work with people on our YouTube channel, which is relatively small, but to teach and inspire the more than 100,000 people that see this content in jails and prisons across America. So as I said from the beginning or before this call, there's nothing you cannot ask me about the entire journey, but I'd be very happy to share with you the same strategies that I give to guys in jail or prison, if that makes sense to you, if you want to try that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So when the show that Timothy is referring to is a story where I think it talks about me making $1 million in prison or something like that. Wasn't that one? Because I did quite a few with him. Okay, so it was the first show that talked about that. And my strategy in prison was always to invest in myself first. So when I went to prison in 1987, I was young. I was 20. I made bad decisions when I was 20 years old. By the time I was 23, I was arrested for trafficking in cocaine. And when I went to prison, I just had this mindset that I was going to change my life because I hated being in jail. I hated being in prison. And what I did, Timothy, is I found this book that really changed the way that I think about the world. It was a story of Socrates. Are you familiar with that story at all?
Yes, very much so, with the Socrates.
So you're familiar with him being in prison and getting this visitor and him being able to potentially get out of jail?
Yeah, I heard bits and pieces about that story, how he's been executed for spreading wisdom and about the escape for one of his mentees. And he said he didn't want to have an honorable death, I believe. Yeah,
that's exactly right. So I read that book when I was locked in jail, and it really caused me to stop thinking about what are the problems that I'm facing and start thinking about people like you. I just thought about law-abiding citizens, tax-paying citizens, and stopped thinking about, God, I'm in a really bad situation right now. I've got to think about how I'm going to get out of here. And so I started thinking about people like you and saying, is there anything that I could do, anything at all, that would cause somebody like you to see me as something different from the bad decisions that I made when I was a young man? And that question, that kind of introspection, is really what got me to change my life. It caused me to start thinking about, well, what would somebody want me to do? And that was I said, focus on investing in myself. It was number one is going to be, I've got to focus on educating myself, on getting a an education, because if I could get an education, that might show I don't want to be a criminal. I want to be a good person. I want to be something better than the bad decisions that I'd made that got me here. And then 2 was, I thought, well, Timothy would want me to do more than just get an education. He'd also want me to contribute to society in meaningful, measurable ways. And so I started thinking about, well, how am I going to do that while I'm in prison? And that is what prompted me to start learning how to become a writer and an author. Because I felt, well, if I could write books and people use those books to advance their education or learn something, then it's self-evident that I'm contributing to society. That was the second component. And so the third component was to build a support network. If I could find people to believe in me that don't know who I am and I don't know who they are, and even though I'm in prison serving a 45-year sentence, and get those people to believe in me, I thought that I would advance the pathway towards success, not only through prison, but when I got out of prison. Absolutely. And so that's one of the things that worked for me, is to have a strategy. Excuse me for that. To have a strategy of building, preparing myself for the future. So I thought in terms of a 10-year plan. In 10 years, I wanted to have a real documented record that I had done this, that I had really worked toward this end. And so during those first 10 years, I got an undergraduate degree and a master's degree while I was in prison. And then I became an author and I began publishing. And through that process, I ended up building a very big support network. And that's how I really got through the first decade. And then I started to leverage that and advance that to get me through the next, 15 or 16 years. So I did 26 years. But by the time I got out in 2013, I had a really solid record. And that record helped me build my career. And so what's the lesson in that, Timothy, for you, that you're not in prison? I know that you're, from a few telephone conversations that we've had, that you're still a relatively young guy. You're very young, because I'm 56. So you're only
43.
You're 43. So I'm 56. So you're so young. My God. Because I got to think of myself as being young. But what that means, Timothy, is that, okay, you should be thinking about, okay, where do I want to be when I'm 50? Okay?
Yes, absolutely.
If you think that way, then you could do the same thing that I did. You start reverse engineering. You start defining success. And so the question that I'm going to challenge you with is, what is going to be different in your life when you're 50? Okay? And you might even subtract it a little bit and just say, let's just do 5 years, because you're in society. You're not locked in a prison, right? You've got access to all these amazing tools like the internet and and the telephone. And these were not tools that I had. All I had was this technology right here, a piece of paper and a pen. But I found that with a piece of paper and a pen, I could advance the ball. And you can do the same thing. So when I got out of prison, the day I got out of prison, I told my wife, and I got married when I was in prison. So while I was in prison, I had 10 years to go, and I got married, and my wife was with me, visiting me every visiting day. And I was always ambitious and always focused. And I earned enough money in prison to completely support her. So
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Because most people in prison, they go in there and they lose an opportunity to earn money and they lose their relationships. And here I got married and was making money.
a question I want to ask you, because I'm currently reading your book. I'm on page 189 out of 530, was the fact that, how did you still have that mindset of ambition when you were surrounded by inmates that just, for, like you said in videos in the book, was forget about the outside world, just focus on it. There was a gentleman when you went to the Atlanta penitentiary where you tried to convey some of the goals and ambitions. I think his name was Windmill or
Windward. That was my roommate.
Yes. And his attitude was like, this isn't going to work for you. You should keep this up. And he was doing other illegal activity. And you were so bombarded with that. And I know you worked at like the volunteer suicide, and then you had an office job, and at the same time you studied in there. So you got support from the female Miss Stevenson.
Miss Stevens.
Yes, Miss Stevens as well. and you got opposition from the guy in charge of academics initially when you get in the books from
his real name is Mr. His real name was Mr. I called him Chandler in the book. Mr. Thomas, Cleveland Thomas.
Yes,
that's right. I remember him. Yeah.
Yes.
In the book, I think I called him Chandler. But go ahead.
Yeah, and he was really upset about it initially at first with his first surface facade, but he reluctantly have the books with the security reasons, talking about like you don't know,
can't interfere with interfere with the security institution.
Yes, but nevertheless, how did you still, despite that, and then you went during the night
I'll tell you.
Slept in the,
Yeah, I thought about you. Now, that might seem crazy, okay? That might seem crazy for me to say I was thinking about you, but I was. I was all the way time doing this. I was saying, I'm going to get out of prison, and I'll be able to put on a suit and tie, and I can walk into any room, and nobody will know that I served a day in prison unless I told them. That was the message, okay? So because I had that so crystal clear in my head, Timothy, I could stay focused. And I used to visualize myself that's what I was going to do, and that's what I'm going to talk with you about right now. I got out of prison on August the 13th, 2012. I didn't get out of prison yet. I had one more year to go. I was going to a halfway house.
In San Francisco, yes. In
San Francisco. And I told my wife, I said, within 5 years of me finishing my sentence, I'll have my first $1 million. So that was a very clear goal. There was no, either I'm going to hit it or I'm going to fail. Okay. And, she didn't know how I was going to do it, but I said, I'm going to use those same principles that got me through prison to launch my career out here. And so I didn't have any, my credit was 000. I had no credit, right? Because I went in, I'd never sent an email, right? The cell phone didn't exist. When my wife gave me a cell phone, I think I told this on the video, I put it in my head and said, this thing's broken. There's no dial tone. Right? So I just had this strategy that I'm going to encourage you to do, and that's define success. That's the first step. Okay. So I want you to begin thinking right now and define it. What is going to be different in your life in 2025, August of 2025? You got to be very clear about that. What is going to be different in your life? And you can use this in many different areas with regard to your career, with regard to your relationship with your family, with regard to the mentors that you're going to have around you, with regard to your fitness and your personal health, right? Anywhere that you want to start by defining success. That's step one. Then if you can define it, if you know where you're going to be in 5 years, then you can start setting the very clear goals of what do I have to do? That's the same thing I had to do. So when I was in prison, I didn't know how I was going to get an education, but I knew that I had to take a series of small steps to get there. I had to start by writing letters to universities and saying, I don't have any money. I was a terrible student in high school, but I want to change my life. Is there any possibility I can enroll and become a student? And I'm going to cough, so I'm going to mute myself. So I started writing those letters, and you send one letter out, you probably don't get a response. You send 10 letters out, you probably got a 10 times better chance of not getting a response. But if you send 100 letters out, you get a shot. And that's what I did, is I sent letters out and I got a shot. And that's how I got into school and found a way to get my education. Even though I didn't have any money, the universities would, you could persuade them to give you a waiver. And that's how I got my education. Well, when I came out of prison, I did the same thing. Actually, I did this before I got out of prison. I started writing letters to developers and telling them what I wanted to do. I wanted to build my career, and I volunteered to work for free while I was in the halfway house. I said, I'll do anything. I just want to learn because I want to get involved in real estate. And the reason was I just really believed it was very important to own an asset that would grow in value, right? A lot of people come out of prison, or they get their first job, and the first thing they do is they go buy something expensive, like an expensive watch or, a expensive car. And I didn't do that. I didn't use my money to buy crap like this, right? I had to wait to create businesses so that the businesses would buy me the things that I want. I wouldn't blow my money, right? I was first had to figure out, how am I going to build assets? And so I had to figure out, what assets could I build? What was going to be my strategy? And there were different, I had to think, how am I going to do that? How am I going to build $1 million? Well, for me, I had to think about my strengths and my weaknesses. Well, my strength was I had a very solid work ethic. I mean, It's Sunday afternoon, 1:00 in the afternoon on Sunday, right? I mean, I'm working. I've been working at this desk since 4:00 in the morning, right? I work 7 days a week. I'm glad I sent you that email yesterday with the link, because otherwise I almost said, shoot, I forgot about that Zoom meeting I scheduled with Timothy. Because I was working on this web design all morning, but it got pinged, so I knew I got to keep working. Well, and then I said, well, if I'm going to work, I need to record this, and I can use this to teach guys in prison as well. So I'm always working, and I had to think about, okay, but working is not going to make me $1 million. There's no way I knew that I could work and make $1 million. That's just the reality, because you when you work, you get a paycheck, and they take out a certain amount of money of the paycheck, and you got to live, right? So you're not going to make money by working.
Right.
So the other option, and I had experience in this in prison, was investing in the stock market. That was another option I thought about. Well, maybe that's a way I can make some money when I go home. And there are opportunities in the market every day, but the difference was, I got out of prison, I was already almost 50 years old. I was 49. 49. And I was 48 when I went to the halfway house. I was 49 when I finished my sentence. And I knew that, said, God, I didn't know what the halfway house was going to be like. So I was like saying, okay, I got to really get ready for when I'm done with my sentence. And that 49 year, that idea was saying, okay, is it going to be the market? Am I going to invest in the market? Because I had some cash when I got out of prison. I had like $100,000 that I'd made from writing, from publishing, and so on. And I'd saved that money. So I was thinking, should I invest in the market? But the market's risky, right? The market, you got to have a long time horizon. When I made money in the stock market in prison, it didn't really matter, because I was in prison, and I wasn't going to get out of prison for, I think it was like 15 more years when I started investing in the market. And I didn't have that, because I was 48, 49. And I said, I got to make $1 million within 5 years. That's my goal. So the third component option, and that I really believe in, was real estate. And the reason I wanted to get involved in real estate was because of leverage, right? Mm-hmm. With a little bit of money, or even no money, because I used no money that time, the first time, I can control an asset that's very valuable, okay? And so the first asset I bought was a $400,000 house in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Whoa,
that was in 2012. So I signed that deal while I was still in the halfway house. And the way that I did it, Timothy, because I didn't have any credit, and although I had some cash, I didn't want to spend my cash because I needed it. I'd been in jail for 26 years.
Did you get your wife involved in this deal? Or?
No, I did that stuff on my own. My wife hated me doing all these deals. But I was aggressive, and I had a lot of confidence that I could do it. So while I was in prison, I reached out to developers, and I told them the story. Look, I've been in prison a long time. I want to build my career. I'll work for free. I just want to learn this business with you. And some of them ignored me. I developed a very good relationship with one of them. He's still a business partner of mine. And eventually I persuaded him to sell me my first house with no money down. Wow. Actually, I think I gave him like 10 grand or something like that. Because he said, I want you to have some skin in the game, but basically no money down. And that asset, once I bought the house, he financed it for me, right? So there are creative ways to get financing, but it takes work, right? I had to start by writing letters and building a record and demonstrating that, telling him, I said, I want you to see me for who I'm going to be in 5 years. Don't see me for who I am right now. And that persuaded him to believe in me. And because he believed in me, I was able to negotiate this deal and buy a house. And that was my first property. And then over the course of that year, or maybe a couple, because I had to go through the year in the halfway house, and this was a brand new house, so the house had to be built. So the house got built while I was in the halfway house. Then I finished my prison sentence, and I started building a little bit of credit because I was working and I was making money. And I built credit, and I was able to get a mortgage. But by the time I got the mortgage, the property value had already increased so much that I had equity in it. So I only,
the market in San Francisco is really hot though.
It was insane. Yeah. And it was the right time. It was right after I bought right at the end of the recession. And, the house that I bought for $400 was probably worth $550, $530 by the time I got it. So I already had like $100,000 equity. So I didn't have to I didn't have to put anything down. They just loaned me the money that I needed to pay the developer. And so I got into that property. And as soon as I got the mortgage, I put a tenant in it. And the tenant effectively paid the mortgage. So that was my first real estate deal. And then I leveraged that deal to buy many, many more real estate transactions over the next several years. So I will share a book I wrote with you about that. Did I send you a book yet called Success After Prison, Timothy?
I got the one where about your life right now. I'm currently reading, but I don't believe I got the one.
That's the one. That's the big 500-page book. That's the story of my journey through prison. I'm going to send you another book, which is my first couple of years out. And it's how I did I did quite a few real estate deals and made, I said I was going to make $1 million. I had like more than 2 million by then, just because of the way the real estate market went. I kept leveraging and buying more. But the message there for you is to be thinking about, okay, I've got to have my own strategy. Mm-hmm. And I got to document that strategy, and I got to set goals. And so I want, if you said that you're looking for mentor or guidance,
absolutely,
I'm going to tell you that's what worked for me, was to be very specific on what I was going to hit, then hit the clear goals that what I needed to accomplish in order to meet my strategy, right? So I say, a success strategy is you first of all define success. Then it's like 3 parts, right? Like you see these 3 legs here on this?
Yes.
So this stands because there's 3 legs on it, right? Mm-hmm. That's why this will stand. Okay. But if I take one of the legs off, this thing isn't going to stand, right? Same thing with you. You've got to document your strategy, what you're going to do, and then you build your 3 legs. And the first leg is you document it. You say, okay, I'm going to do whatever it is, because I don't want to define success for you. I want you to define it. That's the first step. The second step is you've got to create the tools, tactics, and resources. Create those tools, right? That's the second leg of your strategy. And the third leg is going to be to measure your progress every single day. That's a 3-legged strategy. That's what I did while I was in prison. That's what I have been doing since I've come home from prison. And I use that as a technique it's a strategy. It's not a magic pill, right? I mean, right. You gotta execute the strategy every day. But that's what I still do to raise capital, to find deals, to build businesses. And you might see that one of my newest businesses is CBDTV.com. That's a business I started the same way. I just went to a couple of business leaders and told them what I was trying to do. You got to kiss a lot of frogs to get a prince, as they say. So yes. I try a lot. I'm not afraid of failing, and I fail a lot. And when I fail, I pick myself up and do it again. And that is the first lesson in our mentoring program is to build. You've got to define success.
Right.
You've got to create your strategy, document how you're going to get there. Mm-hmm. You got to set your tools, tactics, and resources, and then measure your progress. And so I'm going to ask you to do that. And when you're ready, when you've done those 3 things and you've written them out for me, then I would encourage you to defend them. But we'll have another one of these episodes, but on that one, you're going to do the talking, and you're going to tell me what you did, and you're going to allow me to attack you.
Absolutely.
Because I'm not trying to attack you to be mean. I'm trying to show you, hey, this is what people do to me. This is how I do it, right?
No, it just makes me better as a person. Put me on the hot seat. That's how I progress. That's how you move forward. So
and we'll do this in real time, okay? No rehearsal. You write it out. We got 28-minute segments. I will then record it and give you my honest feedback. And then we'll record it, and I'll use this to teach and inspire more guys in jail and prison. It's kind of a case study of how we do it, and I'll be encouraging them to do the same thing with their life. Fair enough?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to help out anywhere and everywhere that I can.
Well, this is a way that you can help me teach guys in jail and prison, and to the extent that you can find value in it, I'll share with you my strategy with you.
Right. But my question is what other, are you a big proponent like self-development as far as?
Huge proponent of self. I say invest in yourself first.
Yes.
But I know that I only have 28 minutes with these CDCR things, and I've been on for 26. So I'm going to close this episode out, and you and I can continue a conversation offline. But right now I just want to say, with Prison Professors, I'm here with Timothy, my new friend, who we're doing this on YouTube channel, but I wanted to share the story with guys in jails and prisons. So I hope you guys find value in it. I hope that you'll do the same tactic with some of your guys who are in jail and prison, and use this same tool. 3-pronged strategy. First, define success. 2, document the strategy. Next, that's define success, document the strategy. 2 is develop your tools, tactics, and resources. And 3, measure your progress every single day. That's our strategy to become the CEO of your own life. I hope you stay tuned with Prison Professors. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe today. Thank you.